Retaining Scott McKibben as executive director of the Oakland-Alameda County Joint Powers Authority is essential if Oakland is to have any chance of the return of the Raiders here. Well, really, they haven't left. Well, let me explain, okay? Prior to Scott's hiring in 2014, the JPA, as we call it, the Coliseum JPA, had a habit of hiring people, the board, the city and county electeds were comfortable with, rather than people who were truly competent and able to take the job. Let me provide some examples. The most recent example was in 2014. That was when Scott wanted and applied for the position, having served as a very successful executive, the head executive, the president of the Rose Bowl. Now, before Scott was there, the problems that the JPA faced, that Scott straightened out, were developed by executive directors who really were, for all practical purposes, under the direction of the board, as opposed to working with the board to find solutions. That was about to continue in 2014. Now, to the board's credit, the original person they wanted to hire was the director of business and chief financial officer of the Pittsburgh Steelers, a man named Hart. But Mr. Hart came with a large price tag because of the cost of moving him out from the Steel City to the Bay Area in Oakland, on top of his salary request. So that unofficially threw the competition for JPA executive director open yet again. Out of the depths of resumes rose Guy Houston. Guy Houston was at one point mayor of Dublin and then California Assemblyman. He served well in both capacities, but had no experience in sports, in the business of sports. However, he was about to be the choice, primarily because of his friendship with Alameda County Supervisor Scott Haggerty and Oakland City Council member Larry Reed, until this blogger stepped in and uncovered that, sadly, Mr. Houston was in the middle, or had a decade ago been in a situation where he was accused, allegedly, of defrauding an elderly group. They settled out of court. That information really changed the competition. On top of that, Scott was really denied the opportunity to have a discussion about salary requests and requirements. And I was told by two sources that Guy Houston was given the chance to really undercut the salaries of the other competitors. True story. From all of that, Scott McKibben emerged as executive director. Since Scott's installation, the relationships with all of our sports teams have markedly improved, and from a public perspective regarding tax expenditures, Scott got the JPA out of a deficit, a large one. In fact, one could argue that the raise Scott has been given, in part, is paid for by the amazing deficit reduction negotiations he was able to ignite, particularly with the Oakland Raiders. There are a number of sports executives representing the A's, the Raiders, and the Warriors who have told me personally that Scott is a major asset to Oakland, period. And Scott helped me, and I'll just say this big time. We had our meeting with NFL Commissioner Paul Tagliabue when I headed the effort to bring the Super Bowl to Oakland. We lost to Jacksonville in 2000 for the right to host the 2005 game. Scott, at that time, was president of the Alameda newspaper group, the organization that owned the Oakland Tribune. I have to note that the person who wrote the critical column about the retention of Scott did not disclose that they worked for Scott while both were with the Oakland Tribune. That person is reporter, and Scott McKibben is head of the Alameda newspaper group. However, that same person was critical of the way the Alameda newspaper group ran its newspaper business operations after that person left the Tribune, specifically in 2006. Just saying. That's why I don't call myself a journalist, and that's why I call myself a blogger. Because journalists have a way of trying to make you think they're being objective, when in point of fact, they're not. Stay tuned and subscribe to Zenny62 on YouTube and bookmark Zenny62.com.